It's the biggest job in the country, but the pressure is on, the knives are out, there's speculation fervent that there's going to be a resignation. But we're not talking about Keir Starmer, Stephen. We're talking about Limfield manager David Healy. Even though on Tuesday night the Blues won 6-0 against Dungannon Swifts, there's no doubt that David Healy is under a fair bit of pressure at Windsor Park at the moment, particularly after the 1-0 loss to Limavady United in the Irish Cup. What's your read on the situation?
Any Linfield manager is always under pressure. Even if you win a league title, you're under pressure. You could win a clean sweep like this man next to me, and you're under pressure. It's the Linfield way. If you go 2 games in a row without a victory, it's a crisis at Windsor Park. Such is the magnitude of the expectations at that football club. In terms of David Healy, this is a guy who's won 6 league titles for Linfield as manager. He has won multiple cup competitions and brought in well over £1 million, I would suggest, in transfers in terms of the players who have left his football club. But this season has been poor. It hasn't been good enough. And it's going to be the 3rd season out of 4 that they haven't won a league title. And again, that's not good enough at Linfield. The thing is, though, no one's going to know that better than David Healy himself. And I am certain that he is working hour after hour, minute after minute to change the situation. There have been some really, really disappointing performances from his team. And I've written about it, and I'm happy to say it again. They've looked weak. Weak in mind, weak in body. And meek as well, actually, at times. And that's a huge problem. And the match against Limavady in the Irish Cup, I thought Limavady were brilliant. I thought that the Lowry brothers were superb. I thought Paul Owens' tactics were excellent. But Linfield were shocking. They really were. They put up some sort of fight in the injury time, but it wasn't enough, Keith. And they deserve to go out of that competition. And the saving grace for them this season could be the League Cup. But who plays in the final of the League Cup? Glentoran, hopefully in front of a packed house at Windsor Park. And that is a monumental game of football for Linfield and for David Healy. I will add this. The fans are very upset, and they have every right to be, because they want to see Linfield win time after time after time, and they've got used to it over the years. They've had Roy Coyle, they've had David Jeffrey, they've had David Healy, bringing them trophy after trophy after trophy for the guts of 40 years, actually. So whenever they see their team struggling in 4th position in the league title race, they're thinking to themselves, this just isn't on. And some of them have come for Healy. The team needs a rebuild, a dramatic rebuild. They've missed Chris Shields and Jamie Mulgrew enormously. They shouldn't miss them that much. That shows, again, a weakness maybe in the other players. But Healy is a character who I've known since he was a kid. And there's one thing that he loves to do, prove people wrong. And that will be his motivation and his incentive for the rest of the season, to go out and win the League Cup, to go out and qualify for Europe, and then be given more time to build a team that can go and win a title again. He has to finish the season well to be given that opportunity, in my opinion.
Do you think he is under serious pressure from the Linfield board? Do you think there's... Obviously, we know that Roy McGivern has been a massive supporter of David Healy throughout his career, is his number one advocate in many ways. But there's obviously a bigger board there. Could you see something happening?
Well, Roy McGivern is his biggest supporter, and he will back him to the hilt. But I do think the board should take some responsibility as well. It wasn't David Healy who lost Joel Cooper, their best player. That was, the board messed that up. Simple as that. We had Joel Cooper in this very studio explaining the situation. He wanted a 3-year contract and they didn't give it to him. He's off at Coleraine, scoring goals for fun, playing absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I think the whole club needs to take a look at itself. I think David Healy obviously needs to take a look at himself. His coaches have to take a look at themselves. Are they doing enough? The players have to take a look at themselves, and the board as well. It should be a collective. And I'll say this as well, maybe the fans have to take a look at themselves as well, because could they be getting behind their team a little bit more when they're in trouble? So yeah, everyone should be looking in that mirror thinking, can I do more? They should be doing more, and they have to do more. Otherwise, Linfield are going to have one of the worst seasons they've had in years.
David, there's probably two men in this world who understand where David Healy is at the moment. One of them's Roy Coyle and the other one is yourself. What is it like at Limfield when you're under pressure, when you're getting criticism from the fans, where you see articles in the paper where maybe speculating about your future? How do you feel in that situation? It must be a dark place.
It's a difficult place. It's a difficult place, Keith, and there's no point saying otherwise. And that's when you very much depend and rely upon those who you trust, those the good people you have around you. And that's not just your staff, but that's your family. I know that during the various difficult periods or episodes that I had at Linfield, it was those who were closest to you got you through. You also had to show and had to have that belief and resilience in yourself, and that desire very much to still to want to do the job. For me, there's precious little that I can disagree with Stephen on, but I do want to put this into the mix. Linfield were runaway league champions last year. They won the league by a record number of points, and that was incredible. But the Linfield team of last year and the Linfield team of this year, in terms of availability of players, in terms of injuries that have been sustained, in terms of not just the long-term injuries, and we're talking about obviously the Chris Shields, but the ongoing niggly injuries, we've got to say that, in recruitment, you always look to do your very best with regards to due diligence and bringing players in who will make an impact, but that doesn't work all of the time. And I think there's been a mixture of things. I was, games that stand out for me. I watched the Big Two game on Boxing Day. Glentoran were by far the better side. Linfield were simply not just outplayed, were outfought. When I look at the Limavady game, my analysis isn't too far away from that either. And as a manager, you are looking for your players to give their absolute all on the pitch. When they cross the white line, you're trusting them to give absolutely everything. And on those two occasions, for whatever reason, that was not the case. Now, in comparison, okay, and it's one game, but it's against a very good Dungannon side who top four last year, Irish Cup holders. Linfield went out last night and played with a freedom which I thought was, thank goodness people are doing, but getting back to basics. They're getting down to look at it as if they want to win the game. And that's the perception, because I don't doubt that any Linfield player doesn't want to do their best. But you see, when you're in that place and understand this, the scrutiny, the analysis, the opinion are ranked up to high heaven. Make no mistake. But listen, here's the other thing, Keith. No one should ever start to make that as an excuse. I was there for 17 years and 4 months. If I didn't want to be there, then that was my choice. So that's part and parcel of what goes on. There was a great response, as I say, last night against Dungannon. That to me was vitally important, going into this weekend's game away to Glenavon, because after that, then you've got the Big Two game, 6 o'clock, and that's where really the supporters the Linfield supporters will forgive an awful lot. But if they can, if they can get second in the league, if they can win the league cup, then I think that's more than a reasonable return. Sometimes you've got to understand you can't win all of the time, and
try telling some Linfield fans that.
Yes, and this is, I remember, I will not give the context, or I will not say who said it, but I remember being in company of an Linfield official who described our 6 doubles in 7 years as, that's not bad. Yeah. So that'll give you some insight. But for me, there's too much noise. To go where maybe we were alluding to, Graham, David Healy should be staying absolutely where he's at. His players evidently went out and played for him last night and gave their all. Yes, there are lessons to be learned. You're always learning, in terms of management and staff around you. But hey ho, let's not just be going absolutely daft at this moment in time. Plus the fact we've got to put into the mix, the investment that's come into the Coleraine, the ongoing investment at Glentoran, how well Larne have done. Those are things you sometimes have just got to accept that it has happened before. When Portadown, were in the ascendancy, when Crusaders were in the ascendancy, when Cliftonville were in the ascendancy. You've got to realise, that there has been periods where, you haven't been top dog. But Linfield have always got back there, and that's the point that they will make. So you've got at times be accepting and learn from what has gone in the past, recalibrate, and go again.
There's one really important point in all this as well. At the end of last season, David Healy signed a new long-term contract. Yeah. So, if you're looking at it from one side, do Linfield, who've been pleading poverty, have the money to sack David Healy? And if you look at it from the other side, if they were willing to give David Healy a long-term contract then, why should they not have faith in the guy now? My own opinion is, I would keep David Healy if I was in charge of Linfield, because this is a guy who has proved that he can win the big trophies in the past, only last season, for example, and he will be as determined as he has ever been to win more in the future. I will add this. If David Healy were to leave Linfield, I will guarantee you that another Irish League club, or maybe two, would be looking at David Healy thinking, I wonder.
Before we get to that point, let me tell you this is what needs to happen. In times of adversity, people need to stick together. And that is board, players, supporters, staff. David Healy his position should not even be being discussed. You're going through a tough time. What you need to do is stick together, be together. And it's a similar theme, different context altogether, which I've been trying to make sure is out there in terms of Cliftonville and their situation. Clubs are better and stronger together. You don't look to panic when you look at what has been achieved in the past. You go on, and as Leeds sing, we all go on together. That is the attitude that people should have.